In one of my last F1 Clash Mythbuster episodes, we figured out that pushing in the corners is actually the best use of your power unit. And this video is now the flip side of that coin, because the obvious follow-up question becomes, when should you conserve your energy? Or should you ever conserve your energy? Well, the precise question that I want to answer today is, should you conserve your energy on the straights, or just leave your power unit on the medium setting instead? And that being said, welcome to this edition of F1 Clash Mythbusters. I'm Olacium, and let's get into the experiment. Okay, so now we're in the first race, and different than last time, this experiment is actually going to be split into two parts. So in this first part, I'm just looking at pure one lap pace to verify that conserving on the straights is actually slower than just keeping your power unit on the medium setting for the entire lap. So that's test one, just to verify that. I strongly think that it will be the case, but if it's not the case, then the rest of the test wouldn't really make sense. So yeah, we gotta verify that first. So as soon as, we're just focusing on Bearman here by the way, as soon as his lap starts, I'm gonna start a timer, and there you go. So lap 2 started, starting a timer, and this is the control lap basically, where I'm just gonna keep him on the medium setting for the entire lap to see what the time is. And then I'm gonna do another lap in clean air where I'm gonna conserve on the straights, and then we're gonna see how much slower that is. And I'm actually really interested to see how this experiment, this Mythbuster episode ends, because that will greatly impact how I play the game. Okay, lap is ending, and boom. So control lap, 30 seconds, that's good, that's easy to remember. We're gonna pit him this lap, and then we're gonna have one more lap, the last lap of this short race, to do the second lap and see if that's slower. I'm really interested to see how this experiment ends, because I actually only very rarely conserve on the straights, just because I feel like you're so much slower, it's not really worth it. So yeah, depending on how this experiment ends, it will greatly impact if I in the future conserve on the straights or just keep it on medium the entire time. So yeah, gonna fast forward until this next clean lap starts, and then we'll set the second time. Okay, so the next lap is about to start, and I'm already gonna conserve on the straights before the lap even starts. Start the timer now, medium in the corner, conserve on the straight, medium in the corner. So I know my energy is already full, but it doesn't really matter for this test. So medium here, I think this is all a corner, quick conserve. Medium again, I think that's a corner. And now I'd say this is another straight. I mean, there's DRS in real life. Now medium again. Keeping it medium through here. And now when we're on the straight, I'm going to conserve again. And boom. The lap is finished. And it's 31 seconds. Actually 31.9, so almost 32 seconds. Okay, so that, in my opinion, verifies that conserving on the straights is actually slower. And actually, I mean, it's just one lap pace, so I think the margin is actually bigger than I expected it to be. Okay, so that's verified, it is slower, and that now brings us to part 2 of this experiment. So part 2 of this experiment is now all about figuring out if that loss in lap time by conserving on the straights is worth the extra energy that we gain to then be able to push more in the corners. Are you still following me? I certainly hope so, so now let's head into the next race. Okay, so part 2 of this experiment is going to be a little more complicated. I'm actually going to start a timer now at the beginning of the race. There you go. And I'm going to push now and basically play how I play most of the time. So I'm going to keep it on medium on the straights and then push in the corners and never put it into conserve mode. So this is all corner, I'm pushing, and I'm going to say medium here. And then push through this corner again, medium here. And then push through the corners again. And yeah, this is how I actually play most of the time. And now today's question is this actually clicker? Because now on the straights, I'm not gaining the energy, so I'm now going to run out of energy soon, and then I'm not going to be able to push that much in the corners anymore. So yeah, that's why also in this case it's a bit more complicated, because we're not just looking at the pure one lap pace, but because it's about energy storage, and that will only come into effect after a couple of laps, we're going to look at the overall race pace. So the time it takes me to complete an entire race. So I'm going to continue following this strategy with never putting it into conserve, only medium and pushing. And I'm going to do that for the entire race. And then I'm going to repeat this again with conserving on the straights. So that's basically the whole deal. So yeah, I think you get how I'm going to race here. Now my energy storage is empty and it's not filling very quickly, so I can only push very little. I'm going to do his first pit stop now, going to softs, and I'm going to keep the tire strategy exactly the same throughout the test. So yeah, I'm going to continue this race like this, and then we'll have a look what the time is at the end of the race. Okay, so we're in the last couple of corners of this race, and for these last couple of corners I'm going to use the last bit of energy I have. Now having to go back to medium and stopping the timer, end of the race. So to complete the entire race, it took me 2 minutes and 43 seconds without putting it into conserve. So that's now the benchmark time that the other strategy is going to have to beat. Let's see what happens in the next race. Okay, and now comes the exciting part. We're back at Melbourne, and now I'm going to follow the different strategy. There you go, starting the timer. And yeah, again, we're focusing on Bearman, and now I'm going to conserve on the straights to then have more energy to push in the corners. So there you go, that's still all in a corner. And then here, I'm going to say that's a little bit of a straight, conserve, push again, conserve. Filling up those energy storages to now have more energy to deploy in the corner. There you go. Push, push, push. And now a long straight. Conserve and gather up that juicy energy. Push through this little bit here. Conserve again. And now push. And I think in the other test, my energy storages were now already empty. But now, of course, I have a bit more energy to play with because I am, you know, gathering that energy on the straights, which is of course costing me a bit of time on the straights, but can I gain that time in the corners? That's the big question here we want to answer. So now, still energy storages are empty, but they are gonna fill up quicker than they did before, so now I can push through this corner, and there you go, push through here. Okay, he's gonna do his first pit stop, same as last time, and yeah, you can imagine how this goes. I'm gonna continue following this strategy for the rest of the race, and then yeah, let's see what the finishing time is. Okay, and we're in the last couple of corners, still following the strategy, now pushing for the last time. And I mean, here nobody would conserve, so I'm not gonna do it. And stop the timer, 2 minutes 43 seconds. Okay, you guys probably had it on the screen, I only now looked at it. So the time to beat was 2 minutes 43.6 seconds, and the time we had with this strategy was 2 minutes 43.6 seconds. Guys, I'm not making this up. That is incredible. Like, okay, did not expect that. I expected some sort of difference in whatever direction. Okay, so that's why we're not going to do this test just once, because with overall race pace, there is always a bit more variables, you know, you get stuck in traffic a bit and all that good stuff. So we're going to repeat this experiment 2 more times, and then see if the difference is going to swing in any direction or if it's going to stay exactly the same. Okay, and at Miami, following the strategy of not conserving on the straights, the race time is 2 minutes and 58 seconds. So that's the benchmark for Miami. Alright, we're back at Miami, and this time I'm going to follow the different strategy of conserving on the straights and starting the timer again at the race start. I'm going to push for the beginning, of course, as I always do with both strategies, because that just makes sense and that's what everybody would do. But now that was the first little straight that I was conserving, and here I'm going to say there's another little straight, push, another little straight, and pushing through these corners. And Miami is another beautiful track to do this test, because here of course we have a very long straight that's coming right now. So here I'm gonna go into conserve mode, and I'm gonna conserve and gather a lot of energy that I can now deploy in this corner. So yeah, excited to see what the result is at Miami. I'm gonna follow this strategy for the rest of the race, and then let's see how it plays out. Okay, we're in the last lap, and I still have some energy to push in these corners because I conserved on the previous straight. And now I'm going to gather up some energy to push for the final stint. So time to beat, 2 minutes 58 seconds. Let's see how close it's going to be. And now I'm going to push through these final corners, all the energy that I gathered on that straight. And I'm going to stop the timer. Boom! Wow! 2 minutes 54 seconds? So that was way slower. So, okay, on Miami, where you have a very long straight, it seems that this was quicker. So, okay, taking this as a second benchmark, as a second data point, at Miami, conserving on the straights was a lot quicker. So, yeah, let's see what the final test on the third track brings as a result. Okay, and the next track that we're doing this test on is Silverstone, another beautiful track, I think, to test cars. And here I'm gonna try and push as much as I can on this final lap to complete the benchmark time. There you go. So, benchmark time when not conserving on the straights, but keeping it in medium on the straights, 2 minutes, 31.8 seconds. So now let's see if the different strategy can beat that time. Okay, and now we're on the last lap at Silverstone. This time I follow the strategy of conserving on the straights. I'm going to conserve a bit here, push through here, conserve a bit, build up that energy to be able to push through here. We're at 2 minutes 21 seconds, time to beat 2 minutes 31 seconds, conserving on this last straight, pushing through the corner. And out of energy, I'm not going to conserve. Okay, getting ready to stop the timer. There you go. 2 minutes 33 seconds. Okay, so wow. What a mixed bag of results. On Silverstone, conserving on the straights was actually slower. So yeah, 2 seconds slower in this case. Wow, not what I expected with this experiment. Crazy results, but yeah, let's see what we can learn from all this. Okay guys, what can I say? Looking at the results, the answers just aren't that clear this time. So if we do the math, at Melbourne, the difference between conserving your energy on the straights or just leaving the power unit on medium was exactly 0%. I still can't get over that. It's absolutely crazy to me. But on Miami, conserving your energy on the straights was 2.3% quicker. However, then at Silverstone, conserving on the straights was 1% slower. So that does mean that overall, on average, on these 3 tracks in this experiment, conserving on the straights was 0.4% quicker. However, it's simply not enough of a difference to convince me personally to now always conserve my energy on the straights. But I will consider it more often on tracks like Miami, like we saw in this experiment, where we have a very clear, long straight. So there it did seem to make sense to go into power save mode. But keep in mind, for all of you racing in Series 4 and above, that in this episode I didn't use DRS, and that's like another variable that could change things, so let me know if I should take a closer look at that in a future Mythbuster episode to see how ERS and DRS impacts each other. For this episode, special shout out goes to Belek Thavarno for suggesting this video idea or asking this question in my last video. Thank you for that, and let me know what other things I should tackle in the future. For now, I hope you enjoyed this Mythbuster episode. That's been it for today. Wolaceum out.